Times have changed since 1996. It feels like every other month there's a new monster catcher in development, and I'm personally here for it. But it wasn't always that way. Most of the content I cover here on my channel are ROM hacks of Pokemon games, some of which include fake Pokemon, or Fakemon for short. I bring this up because I've seen a divide in people that play ROM hacks, a group I used to be a part of. People that cannot stand Fakemon, and to them, that's all these other monster catching games are. At least, that's how I felt. Believe it or not, there was once a time I would avoid games with Fakemon. I think it came from a place of hating those old playground rumors. I saw something that's not officially a Pokemon as a bad thing. Or maybe it was just the designs themselves. Back in the day, they weren't convincing enough to immerse me in the gameplay. Whatever the reason may be, I understand. However, playing games with Fakemon opened up my heart to trying other monster catchers. I'm still a baby to the genre. I've played Temtem, which I enjoyed a lot. I tried the demo for Lumentail, which was great, and most recently, I fell in love with Cassette Beasts. Cassette Beasts is an open-world 2.5D turn-based monster catching RPG. Cassette Beasts is a fresh take on the monster catching genre, and while playing it, I never wanted it to end. There's a lot to talk about, so how about we just start at the beginning. You start up a new game, customize your character, and are flung through what I can only assume is outer space. The screen goes white, and you wake up on Harbour Town Beach. After a bit of exploring, if you head west, you'll see some sort of bridge with a girl on the other side. The camera pans back, and you're being attacked by your first monster. The stranger rushes to your aid and tells you that this is Traffic Crab, and they don't take kindly to strangers, or anyone really. She hands a cassette player and headphones, then abruptly asks you your aesthetic: spooky or sweet. This of course is our starter selection, and while there's only two options, both starters have split evolutions depending on your preference, but we'll get to that later. Now on the surface, most people would assume my aesthetic to be spooky, but if you really know me, you'll know it's sweet. And just like that, I have my first cassette tape. Okay, so unlike other monster catchers where you send monsters into battle for you, in Cassette Beasts you use cassette tapes to transform into monsters that you record on blank tapes. This threw me through a loop a bit at first, but you'll get used to it. So you win your first battle, and the stranger that helped you through it introduces herself as Kaylee. Kaylee is the first of many partners you'll come across in Cassette Beasts. She drags you back to town and welcomes you home. You see, we're stuck here. Whatever you fell through at the start of the game dropped you on an island called New Wirral. Side note, the name New Wirral is from the actual area of the UK, Wirral, which is where I live. They go on to explain that where we are currently isn't strictly Earth. At least that's what they think, and there isn't any way to get back home. You see, the inhabitants of New Wirral are also from different worlds, and they've been trying for a century to find a way back home. Kaylee awkwardly reassures us that despite the awful news, we can have a good life here. There's community in Harbour Town, and we're safe. Well, apart from the monsters. They provide us a place to stay and some clothes that may not be from our time period, but it's all they've got. She invites us to go on patrol with her after we say hello to our new neighbors. This is a good time to explain how the game mechanics work. Similar to Pokemon, there are 6 stats: HP, melee attack, melee defense, range attack, range defense, and speed. Both human characters and monsters have stats. The human stats are like a percentage that enhances the monster stats when you transform into them. By default, your base stats are 120 HP and 100 in the rest. But later on in the game, you can adjust your stats, which in turn will affect your monster stats too. The next thing you may notice is the level is applied to the player character rather than the monsters. That's not to say there isn't a way to level them up, because there is. But this is one of my favorite parts of the game. It allows you to use new monsters on a whim without having to do much grinding, if any at all. As for the monsters level up system, they gain EXP too, but instead of gaining levels, they gain stars, up to a maximum of 5. Side note, even if you reach 5 stars on your beasts, they'll still gain EXP and level up, they just visually remain on 5 stars. Once they reach 5 stars, if they're able to, you can remaster your Cassette Beast. This is essentially evolution, and upon evolving, your monster will have an appearance, stat, and sometimes a type change, depending on the species of course. One of my favorite things about Cassette Beasts is a lot of the monsters have split evolutions. There are various conditions for split evolutions, such as day and night, knowing a certain move, or just outright selecting which evolution branch you want to go down. Either way, I enjoyed seeing variants of the same basic premise. Each time a monster gains a star, they gain a new move and they gain a small buff to their stats. 2% each time for a total of 10% at 5 stars. Cassette Beasts attack come in the form of stickers. The sticker system is really cool. It's similar to TM's, but instead of being single use or infinite use, they're kind of like an item that you can give or take from your Cassette Beasts. This allows for a lot of customization. Your Cassette Beasts can know up to 8 moves naturally, but there's certain rare stickers you may find that allow you to expand your moveset beyond the limit of 8. 8 may sound like a lot, but there's some stickers that give you buffs the more empty move slots you have. There's also passive stickers, which are essentially the equivalent of abilities. In Pokemon, your moves have power points. The stronger the move, the less power points you get. Cassette Beasts, however, use action points, which are these orange squares here. By default, at the start of each turn, you will gain 2 AP, so while your individual moves don't have limitations, you do. I really enjoy this system because you can come up with builds that allow you to gain so much AP each turn, which lets you spam really powerful moves. It's so rewarding. There's a total of 14 types in Cassette Beasts, and while most of the types are similar to what you'd see in Pokemon design-wise, mechanically they are very different. In Pokemon, you're looking to do super effective damage. It's similar in Cassette Beasts, except instead of huge damage being dealt when you hit a super effective move, you apply a debuff. There are a lot of debuffs, too many to cover, but this game does a phenomenal job at explaining what each of them do as they appear. As for not very effective moves, they apply buffs. There's also a third interaction that can happen, and that's when the attacker's move changes the defender's type. The best way to understand is to give examples. If you use a fire type move on a metal type monster, they will be debuffed with the burn status for 3 turns. Burned monsters take 10% damage at the end of their turn. If you use a fire type move on a water type monster, they will be buffed with the healing steam status for 3 turns. Monsters with healing steam regain some health at the start of each turn. And lastly, if you use a fire type move on a plastic type, their coat changes and they become a poison type, because burning plastic can release pollutants. One of the most daunting thing about playing a new monster catcher is learning the type matchups, but thankfully Cassette Beasts made it easy. They provide you with the type chart, which you can access during battle, and on top of that, they visually show when you're about to attack, what buff, debuff, or type change will happen. Cassette Beasts only have one type, unless they fuse with another. The fuse mechanic is insane. It's a temporary effect that lasts the whole battle as long as your monster doesn't faint. And unlike Pokemon, where only a limited amount have access to a regional gimmick, Cassette Beasts allows all of their monsters to fuse with each other in any order you like. As of writing, there are 128 catchable Cassette Beasts, which means there are a total of 16,384 possible fusions. There's more to fusing that we'll cover soon. Let's just check back in on the story. You meet up with Kaylee across the bridge and she gives you the rundown. There was some kind of earthquake or monster activity which caused there to be cracks in the ground, and you'll be investigating it. You encounter a spring heel and learn some basics about battle. The green bar is our monster form's health, while the red bar is ours. If a form loses all of its health in a fight, its tape will break and need repairing. Upon the tape breaking, any extra damage that would have been done to the tape will be applied to us, and if both of us lose all of our health, you have to retreat back to Harbor Town. One unique aspect of Cassette Beasts is the overworld. There are plenty of puzzles to solve and 6 abilities to gain to be able to traverse New Wirral fully. After solving the simple push the green button puzzle, Kaylee allows you to take the lead and officially becomes your partner, registering her monster Sirenade to your bestiary. That's your Pokédex. After some light exploring, Kaylee finally teaches you about the catch system. She starts by handing you some basic tapes, then goes on to explain that the monsters of New Wirral, when weakened, can have their essence recorded to cassette tapes. Nobody knows entirely how it works, but it does. There were a few factors to consider when recording a monster: how healthy the monster is, its level and rarity, how much damage dealt while recording, how much damage the person took while recording. You heard that correctly. When you're recording a monster, you have to leave your monster form for that turn. Whoever remains in their monster form has the job of applying as much damage as they can. The more damage dealt that turn, the more likely they are to stay. And don't worry about knocking out your target. Monsters being recorded cannot faint that turn unless the recording is successful. While recording the monster, it tells you the exact percentage chance of success. I love this because you know if you could be doing something more to increase your odds rather than blindly hoping for the best. Just like in Pokemon, there are shinies in this game. They're referred to as bootlegs, and I was told the odds of finding one are 1 in 1,000. The thing that makes bootlegs special, however, is they're more than just a color swap. Each monster has 14 bootleg variants, 1 of each type. On top of that, bootleg monsters are more likely to learn rare moves with additional effects. This makes them so valuable, and it's definitely worth it to hunt for them. There are ways to increase your chances of finding them too, so don't get too discouraged by the 1 in 1000 number. After learning how to catch monsters, I filled up my party with them, and only then was I ready to continue Kaylee's patrol. Walking up to the area we were sent to investigate, and the entrance to a train station popped up right in front of us. Kaylee informs us that this isn't normal, but we go inside anyway. After some looking around, we find the train tracks, which has this strange air about them. This is where we meet our first Archangel, Morgante. She appears to be looking for someone or something called Mordred, referring to it as child and her kin. She says the long conflict has drawn to an end, and she's afraid he has defeated her, truly this time. Kaylee realizes this is an Archangel and thinks that we should leave. However, before we can, a nearly defeated Morgante challenges us to a battle. She's level 100, but her HP is so low that maybe we stand a chance. The tutorial teaches us that Archangels let their AP build up to a maximum of 10, so that they can unleash a powerful attack. It's recommended to beat an Archangel before it reaches 10, or make sure you have a solid defense. One of the best defenses in the game are walls. They're similar to substitutes in the regard that they sacrifice some HP to make them, except they expire after a certain amount of turns or hits taken. Walls are also affected by type effectiveness. For example, if I have a steel wall up and my opponent uses a fire type attack, the wall will immediately disappear rather than the number ticking down. Certain types of monsters can set up walls if they're hit with a move that buffs them. For example, fire type move hitting an air type move would create an air wall. Back to the battle against Morgante, Kaylee decides she doesn't want to die, and she'll do anything it takes to survive. This is when our hearts act as one and we fuse for the first time. Fusing makes you more powerful, and the closer you are to your companion, the more powerful you are as a fusion. This is determined by the relationship mechanic. Each of your companions have 5 hearts to fill in. It's even possible to date them if you're into that. I personally wasn't going to date any of them because I don't like myself insert dating a video game character, but one of the achievements you can get is to date at least one of them, so I did. From a gameplay perspective, when you fuse, you gain 4 AP each turn instead of 2, and you also have access to all of the moves of both tapes combined. And of course, your stats are added together. I didn't even go over the best part of being fused. When you fuse, the music changes to have vocals, which are phenomenal by the way. Honestly, the music in this game in general is just so good. I mean, it would be weird if a game called Cassette Beasts didn't have great music. Now we're a more powerful being, and with a little bit of what I can only assume is plot armor, we defeat our very first Archangel. Upon defeating her, she asks why we came here, to which I answer I want to find a way off the island. She reveals that there is in fact a way off, but only she knows of it. So we make a deal with her. She requires a vessel, and we require a guide. We're to rebuild her strength, and in turn, she'll lead us off this land. The hints to where we need to go are in the form of a song, of which I was informed are randomized per save file, meaning there isn't just one set final destination in this game, there are several, of which is determined right as you create your save data. Side note, there is an NPC that gives you a free bootleg, that is also randomized per save file. After hearing Morgante's song, Kaylee takes us back to the cafe, which is essentially our Pokemon Center. She blushes over fusing with us and explains that the first people to wash up on the shores of New Wirral thought monsters were angels, and some of them wrote of other entities too, greater than the others. Creatures that look and feel wrong. They named those other creatures Archangels. When the people learned that they could fight and defeat regular angels, they lost their angelic allure and over time are simply referred to as monsters. The Archangels, however, kept their name. Nobody knows what they are. Nobody has seen one in a really long time. Kaylee encourages us to join the Ranger training program in order to become stronger to fight other Archangels. The Rangers in this game function like gym leaders. And that is when the tutorial ends, and the game fully opens up for you to explore at your own leisure. Of course, your exploration is slightly limited by which overworld abilities you have, but you are free to do whatever you like. Take on any quest in any order, there are no rules. From this point on, your main objective is to find other Archangels and defeat them so you can get more clues as to how to get off of New Wirral. But of course, there's more to the game than just that. There's the Rangers like I just mentioned, you have other partners to find and help with their own mission, and there's 128 Cassette Beasts for you to find and capture. When I started making this video, I had to decide what my goal with it was. I determined I really just wanted to share my love for this game and encourage all of you to check it out. So for that reason, I'm going to avoid sharing more of my experience beyond this point. It's definitely better to experience it on your own, and if you really want to watch videos on it, I'll have a link to my playlist of my playthrough in the description. Personally, I have 66 hours in the game right now, and I have nearly 100% completed it in terms of achievement. The game is on Nintendo Switch, Steam, and Xbox Game Pass. It's only $20, which is an absolute steal. If you're able to get it, I would. You won't regret it. I haven't even mentioned that online multiplayer and DLC was announced for Cassette Beasts. As of writing, there isn't a release date, but when it's out, I'll definitely be down to battle and trade monsters with you guys. Now go. Go play this game and be sure to come back to the comments after you play it and let me know how much you enjoyed it.